Men over 60, there's something most of you are doing in private that could be quietly shaping your health, your confidence, and even your relationships. You won't hear about it in a routine checkup. You won't see it on the evening news. But in my clinic, I see the effects every single week. I'm talking about masturbation. Not whether it's right or wrong, but how the way you do it can either protect your vitality or slowly chip it away. For some men, it's just a way to relax. For others, it's become so routine they never stop to ask what it's doing to their body. And after 60, your body doesn't bounce back from sexual release the same way it used to. In this video, I'll reveal 6 hidden risks you probably haven't heard before, and the simple steps to turn this habit into a genuine health booster. No pills, no gimmicks, just science, experience, and a plan that works for your age. By the time you finish watching, you'll know exactly how to protect your heart, sharpen your mind, keep your erection strong, and stay connected without giving up pleasure. So let's start with the first risk. It's something that can quietly drain your energy day after day, and most men never realize it's happening. I'm Dr. Catherine Rocker, and for more than 20 years I've specialized in senior men's sexual health. I've worked with thousands of men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s, helping them restore energy, confidence, and intimacy, often without relying on medication. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Men are rarely told the full truth about how their private habits affect their health as they age. We talk about cholesterol, blood pressure, and arthritis, but we almost never talk about sexual routines, especially masturbation. Yet this is a subject that deserves the same respect and attention as any other part of your health. The changes that happen in your hormones, circulation, and brain chemistry after 60 mean your body responds differently than it did decades ago. Today, I'm not here to tell you to stop. I'm here to give you the facts so you can decide what's right for you. Because with the right knowledge, you can enjoy your sexuality in a way that supports your long-term health, not quietly undermines it. Masturbation is one of the most private acts in a man's life. For decades, it may have felt simple, a moment of release, a bit of relaxation, and then back to the day. But after 60, that equation changes. Your body is not the same machine it was at 25. Recovery takes longer. Hormones rise and fall differently, and the way your brain processes pleasure has shifted. Here's what's really happening inside. Hormonal shifts. Testosterone naturally declines with age, and the body's response to sexual release changes. What once gave you a sharp boost in mood and drive may now be followed by a longer dip in energy. Circulatory changes. Your blood vessels may be less flexible, which can affect how well blood flows to key areas, not just your penis, but also your brain and muscles. Brain chemistry adaptation. Over years of repetition, your brain wires itself to expect pleasure in a specific way. After 60, those patterns are harder to change. None of these changes are inherently bad. They're simply part of aging. But they mean the same habit that once felt harmless can have very different effects now. The truth is, masturbation can still be a positive part of your life. It can relieve stress, help you stay connected to your sexuality, and even support prostate health when done in moderation. The problem begins when the frequency, intensity, or style doesn't match what your body can now handle. That mismatch can slowly drain your energy, dull your mental clarity, strain your heart, and even make partner intimacy more difficult. Think of it like driving a classic car. You can still enjoy the ride, but you can't push it at full throttle every day without wearing out the engine. Your body is the same. It needs pacing, maintenance, and care to keep running strong. That's why in the next few sections, I'll share 6 specific risks I've seen in my patients. For each, I'll explain what's going on biologically, share a real-life story, and give you simple adjustments that protect your health while keeping pleasure in your life. Let's start with the first. a hidden drain on your energy that can sneak up on you and leave you wondering why you're so tired all the time. Risk 1. Chronic fatigue from hormonal strain. Meet Harold, a retired truck driver, 67 years old. For decades, he was used to long hours, tight schedules, and a lifestyle that demanded stamina. But after retiring, he noticed something troubling. Every morning felt like he was starting the day with an empty gas tank. He slept well, ate reasonably, and still took his daily walks. Yet by mid-morning, he felt drained. His motivation to tackle hobbies or home projects faded, and even simple errands left him feeling sluggish. When we talked, Harold admitted he had been masturbating almost every day, sometimes more than once, as a way to unwind and pass the time. He never thought it could be connected to his fatigue. Here's what was happening. After orgasm, the body can release cortisol, the stress hormone. While a small rise is normal, frequent sexual release can keep cortisol levels spiking again and again. Cortisol puts your body on high alert, diverting energy to recover and regulate itself. In younger men, the recovery is quick, but after 60, it can take longer for hormone levels to return to balance. That means your system is constantly playing catch-up, leaving you with less energy for the rest of the day. Over time, this can lead to reduced physical activity, gradual muscle loss, and lower endurance. A weaker immune response, a creeping loss of independence. How to fix it? Limit frequency to 2 or 3 times per week. Space sessions with at least one rest day in between. Support hormone balance by eating protein-rich meals, healthy fats, and staying hydrated. Include light exercise, walking, stretching, or gentle strength work to boost circulation and energy. When Harold followed this plan, he noticed a difference in just 2 weeks. His mornings felt lighter, his walks got longer, and he had the energy to start restoring his old pickup truck, a project he had been putting off for months. Moderation isn't about denying pleasure. It's about pacing yourself so the benefits of sexual release work with your body, not against it. Next, we'll talk about a risk that has nothing to do with physical stamina, but everything to do with how your brain responds to pleasure. This one can quietly shift your habits from healthy to compulsive without you even noticing. Risk 2, brain reward system. Overload. Lionel, 72, spent most of his life as a jazz saxophonist. Music was his oxygen. Even after retiring from touring, he played local gigs and practiced daily. But over the past year, he noticed something unsettling. His passion for music was fading. He wasn't drawn to practice, and even listening to his favorite records didn't give him the same thrill. When we talked, Lionel admitted he had been masturbating nearly every day, often more than once, especially in the evenings. It wasn't about desire, it had become a habit. Here's the science behind what happened. Sexual stimulation triggers the release of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. In younger years, dopamine receptors are highly responsive, but as we age, they become less sensitive. That means you may need more stimulation to feel the same pleasure you once did. When you repeatedly chase that dopamine spike through the same kind of sexual release, your brain starts to rewire itself. Pleasure becomes tied to a single, predictable trigger. This is called reward pathway narrowing. Over time, other enjoyable activities, like music, sports, or hobbies, can feel dull by comparison. This shift is subtle at first. You may not notice it until you start losing interest in things you once loved. In severe cases, it can spiral into a compulsion, where the urge to release overshadows other forms of satisfaction. How to fix it? Create space between sessions, at least 1 day apart. Engage in alternative dopamine boosters, physical activity, creative hobbies, or social interaction. Change your routine. Vary the pace, setting, or method to keep your brain's reward system flexible. Practice mindful arousal. Focus on sensation rather than rushing to climax. Lionel took this advice seriously. He began spacing out his solo sessions, joined a small group of musicians for weekly jam nights, and reintroduced variety into his self-pleasure routine. Within a month, he felt his creativity and love for music reignite. The takeaway: dopamine thrives on variety. When you give your brain different ways to experience reward, you protect both your sexual vitality and your joy in life. Next, we'll move from brain chemistry to something even more critical: your heart. Because the way you stimulate yourself can put sudden, intense strain on your cardiovascular system in ways you might not expect. Risk 3. Heart strain under pressure. Walter, 70, has always been a man of the outdoors. For decades, he tended his garden, trimmed hedges, and pushed his wheelbarrow without a second thought. Even after being diagnosed with mild heart disease, he stayed active and followed his doctor's orders: daily walks, light work, and a low-salt diet. But lately, Walter had been experiencing brief episodes of chest tightness and dizziness. They seemed random at first, until he noticed a pattern. The episodes often came shortly after he masturbated. Here's why. During sexual arousal and orgasm, your heart rate and blood pressure spike suddenly. In those few seconds, your cardiovascular system is under the same type of strain as sprinting up a steep hill, except without a gradual warm-up. For a younger heart, that surge is usually harmless. But for a heart with narrowed arteries, stiffened muscle walls, or past damage, that sudden push can be risky. In some cases, it may trigger irregular heartbeats, faintness, or even more serious events. Many men assume that if they can walk, climb stairs, or garden without trouble, their heart can handle any kind of activity. But sexual exertion, especially when done alone and quickly, loads the heart differently. Privacy and urgency can make you rush, giving your body no time to adapt to the sudden demand. How to reduce the risk? Pace yourself. Slow, steady stimulation puts less shock on the heart. Check with your doctor if you have heart disease, high blood pressure, or diabetes. Avoid sexual activity immediately after heavy meals, alcohol, or intense exercise. Focus on breathing. Steady, deep breaths can help control heart rate and blood pressure during arousal. Walter adjusted his approach. He took more time, paid attention to his breathing, and avoided sexual activity on days when he already felt fatigued. His chest discomfort disappeared. Your heart is central to your sexual vitality. Treating it with respect doesn't mean giving up pleasure. It means keeping pleasure safe and sustainable for years to come. Next, we'll shift to a risk that targets your mind and emotions. Over-relying on masturbation to handle stress or loneliness can cloud your focus and leave you feeling more isolated than ever. Risk 4. Emotional isolation and mental fog. Samuel, 69, spent most of his career as a high school history teacher. Even after retirement, he loved reading, mentoring students online, and joining weekly chess games at the community center. But over the past year, something changed. He found himself skipping those chess nights, losing focus while reading, and feeling less inclined to reach out to friends. When we spoke, Samuel shared that he had been using masturbation as his main way to unwind, sometimes multiple times a day. It started after his wife passed away, and at first, it felt like harmless comfort. Over time, it became his go-to coping mechanism for stress, boredom, or loneliness. Here's the hidden effect. Each time you climax, your brain releases dopamine and endorphins that lift your mood for a short while. But when this becomes your primary stress relief, your brain starts to depend on it. This narrows your coping strategies and can lead to what I call emotional tunnel vision. The result? You're less likely to reach for healthier outlets like conversation, exercise, or hobbies. Without realizing it, you begin isolating yourself, which deepens feelings of loneliness and mental fog. In Samuel's case, this loop meant he was mentally active only during brief moments of release, but less engaged with the world around him. That kind of imbalance can even impact short-term memory and mental flexibility. How to break the loop. Limit reliance. Use sexual release as one tool for stress relief, not the only one. Schedule alternative outlets, daily walks, group activities, or creative hobbies. Practice mindfulness, meditation or breathing exercises to stay present with your emotions. Reconnect socially. Call friends, volunteer, or join a local club. Samuel began spacing out his solo sessions and replaced some with outdoor walks and phone calls to old friends. Within a month, his mental clarity improved, and his social life started to recover. Pleasure should enhance your emotional life, not replace it. By keeping your coping tools varied, you protect your mind, your mood, and your connections with others. Next, we'll look at a risk that might surprise you: how hormonal shifts from frequent masturbation can speed up hair loss in men who are already prone to it. Risk 5. Hormonal swings and hair health. Victor, 66, ran a small watch repair shop for decades. He had a full head of thick silver hair that customers often complimented. But within 6 months of retiring, he noticed the hair at his temples thinning rapidly and the crown of his head beginning to show more scalp than before. He assumed it was just age catching up with him, but after a detailed conversation, we uncovered something else. Victor had started masturbating daily, sometimes twice a day, as a way to pass time during slow afternoons at home. Here's the connection. Sexual release causes a temporary rise in testosterone. In men who are genetically sensitive, part of that testosterone quickly converts into DHT, dihydrotestosterone. DHT binds to receptors in hair follicles and gradually shrinks them. Over time, those follicles produce finer and weaker strands until they stop growing hair altogether. Normally, this process takes years. But in Victor's case, the frequent hormonal surges from daily release sped up the cycle. What should have been gradual thinning became noticeable hair loss in just months. How to slow it down? Moderate frequency. Aim for every other day or less to reduce repeated hormone spikes. Support hair health. Eat foods rich in zinc, biotin, and lean protein to strengthen follicles. Manage stress. Chronic stress raises cortisol, which can also disrupt hormonal balance and affect hair growth. Talk to your doctor. Medications like finasteride can help block DHT if hair loss is a major concern. Victor took action immediately. He reduced frequency to 3 times a week, started a hair-healthy diet, and discussed treatment options with his physician. Within 3 months, his hair shedding slowed, and his confidence improved. The lesson here is simple. If you're prone to hair loss, your sexual habits can influence the speed of change. By finding a healthier rhythm, you can protect both your hair and your hormone balance. Next, we'll address a risk that goes straight to the core of sexual confidence: how repeated solo habits can make it harder to perform with a partner, even when you feel aroused. Risk 6. Partner performance. Disconnect. Elliot, 68, had been widowed for 5 years. When he finally felt ready to date again, he was excited and nervous. On his first weekend getaway with a new partner, he felt strong attraction and desire. But when the moment came, his erection faded quickly. This surprised him because, on his own, he had no problem. Alone, he could get and stay firm. But with a partner, it was different. Here's why. Over time, repeated solo stimulation in the same position, with the same speed, grip, and fantasy, can train your arousal to respond only to that specific pattern. Your brain and body become conditioned to one route to climax. And when the situation changes, such as with a partner, the stimulation feels unfamiliar and less effective. This is known as arousal pattern lock-in. After 60, the brain's ability to quickly adapt to new patterns is slower, so the effect can be more noticeable. The good news? You can retrain your sexual response. How to break the pattern? 1. Take a reset period. Go without masturbation for 7 to 14 days to allow your arousal sensitivity to reset. 2. Vary your solo technique. Change speed, touch, position, and even your surroundings. 3. Slow down. Focus on sensation instead of racing toward climax. 4. Add partner-like elements, sounds, movements, or textures that mimic real-life intimacy. 5. Shift your goal. Enjoy the entire build-up, not just the finish. Elliot followed this plan. Within 6 weeks, his erections during partner intimacy became stronger and more reliable. More importantly, he felt less anxious and more present in the moment. This risk reminds us that masturbation is a powerful tool, but if used the same way for too long, it can limit your ability to connect fully with a partner. Variety, patience, and intentional practice can restore flexibility and confidence. Now that we've covered all 6 risks, let's look at how balancing your habits can create powerful, whole-body benefits that no single change can match. Each of the 6 risks we've covered, fatigue, dopamine overload, heart strain, emotional isolation, hormonal hair loss, and partner disconnect, might seem separate at first. But in reality, they're deeply connected. When you make even small improvements in one area, the benefits ripple through the others. This is the synergy effect. Let me give you an example. One of my patients, Graham, 71, came to me struggling with 3 major issues: low energy, fading erections with his partner, and growing disinterest in his woodworking hobby. We worked on a simple plan. Reduce masturbation from daily to 3 times per week. Add 20 minutes of light exercise after breakfast. Replace one solo session each week with a social activity or hobby. After just a month, Graham's morning fatigue eased, his woodworking projects started to feel exciting again, and his erections during partner intimacy became more reliable. Why? Lower frequency gave his hormones time to recover, which boosted his stamina. Physical activity increased circulation, benefiting both brain and sexual function. Reintroducing hobbies diversified his dopamine sources, reducing the risk of compulsion. Each positive change amplified the others. That's the power of balance. When you protect your energy, keep your brain's reward system flexible, support your heart, nurture your emotional health, manage hormone swings, and vary your sexual routine, you create a cycle of improvement that touches every part of your life. It's not about perfection. It's about consistent, sustainable habits that keep your sexuality and health aligned. Remember, your sexual well-being is not a separate part of you. It's woven into your cardiovascular health, hormone balance, mental clarity, and emotional connection. Take care of one, and you lift the others. Neglect one, and the strain will eventually spill over into the rest. So as we move into the final parts of this video, I'll show you the common mistakes men make when trying to adjust their sexual habits, and how to avoid them. Then, I'll give you a 30-day plan to start making these changes without feeling deprived or pressured. Common mistakes to avoid. When men over 60 try to adjust their sexual habits, they often run into the same traps. Avoiding these mistakes can save you months of frustration and keep your progress on track. Mistake 1. Believing more release always means more vitality. Many men think that frequent sexual release will keep the plumbing working. While occasional release is healthy, daily or multiple times per day can lead to hormonal strain, fatigue, and weaker erections over time. Your body needs recovery time between sessions. Mistake 2. Using masturbation as your only stress relief. If self-pleasure is your main or only coping tool, you risk emotional isolation and mental fog. Variety matters. Conversations, hobbies, movement, and creativity are essential for mental and emotional health. Mistake 3. Ignoring warning signs from your heart or energy levels. Chest tightness, irregular heartbeat, dizziness, or sudden fatigue after sexual activity are not signs to push through. They're signals to slow down and get checked. Men often dismiss these as normal aging, but they can be early warnings of cardiovascular strain. Mistake 4. trying to stop abruptly without a plan. Some men hear about these risks and try to quit all at once. That often backfires, creating frustration or even stronger urges. It's far more effective to gradually adjust frequency and add new rewarding activities to replace the gap. Mistake 5. Sticking to the same solo routine for decades. Repetition locks your arousal to one pattern, making partner intimacy harder. Vary your approach regularly to keep your brain flexible and your body responsive. By avoiding these pitfalls, you make it much easier to build a healthier, more balanced sexual rhythm that supports both pleasure and long-term vitality. Next, I'll give you a clear 7-30-day action plan so you can start making changes at a pace that feels natural and sustainable. 30-day action plan. Changing a long-standing habit doesn't happen overnight, and it shouldn't. Your goal is to create a rhythm that feels natural, supports your health, and still leaves room for pleasure. Week 1. Awareness and spacing. Track your current frequency without judgment. Begin spacing sessions so there's at least one rest day in between. Add one new activity that boosts dopamine naturally, such as walking, light strength training, or a creative hobby. Week 2. Introduce variety. Change your solo technique. Adjust pace, position, touch, or environment. Replace one solo session with a social activity or phone call to a friend. Pay attention to energy levels and mood on days you skip. Week 3. Partner or partner-like practice. If you have a partner, slow down intimacy and focus on sensation rather than rushing to climax. If solo, incorporate partner-like elements, different sounds, movements, or tactile sensations. Week 4. Evaluate and adjust. Review your journal for changes in energy, mood, erection quality, and focus. Decide if your current frequency feels sustainable. Keep 1 or 2 rest days each week as a long-term habit. Ongoing. Revisit this plan every few months to ensure it still matches your health and lifestyle. Stay active physically and socially to support your brain and body's reward system. Small, steady adjustments will help you build a healthier sexual routine that supports your energy, confidence, and overall well-being for years to come. Next, let's wrap up with a motivational call to action and an inspirational closing to keep you moving forward. You've just learned 6 risks of frequent masturbation after 60, and the simple steps to turn it into a habit that supports your health instead of draining it. Remember, this isn't about giving up pleasure or feeling guilty about it. It's about protecting your energy, keeping your erection strong, staying mentally sharp, and enjoying connection, whether that's with a partner or with yourself, in a way that adds to your life. I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 risks surprised you the most? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one and respond personally when I can. If you found this helpful, give this video a like, share it with another man who could benefit from this information, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. We talk openly here about the topics most men are too embarrassed to discuss, and we do it with science, respect, and solutions. In my next video, I'll share a natural 7-second method that many of my patients use to boost firmness and drive without pills or prescriptions. You won't want to miss it. Now let's close with one final thought, because no matter your age, you still have the power to shape this part of your life. Your sexuality doesn't have an expiration date. At 60, 70, or even 80, your body is still capable of pleasure, connection, and desire, but it needs to be cared for in a way that matches where you are now in life. Think of this stage as a finely tuned classic car. It can still run beautifully and take you exactly where you want to go, but it thrives when you give it the right fuel, avoid unnecessary strain, and keep it well maintained. The habits you choose from today forward can either slow the clock or speed it up. You have the power to protect your energy. Keep your mind sharp, strengthen your body, and enjoy intimacy on your terms. Don't let outdated beliefs or old routines quietly chip away at the man you still are. With small intentional changes, you can make this chapter of your life more vibrant, more confident, and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. It's never too late to feel alive again.